the beginning, there was nothing but silence. The world lay in the shadows of its own making, men wandering through years of war, greed, and loneliness, searching for something they could not name. Their hearts were filled with noise, but their souls were starved of light. And then, in the stillness of time, a voice broke the darkness. It was not the voice of a king or a soldier or a scholar, but the voice of one who spoke as if heaven itself leaned close to listen. He said, "I am the light of the world. Whoever follows me will never walk in darkness, but will have the light of life." The people looked at him and wondered how one man could claim such a thing. Yet when he spoke, it was as if every word carried warmth, as though the cold places in their hearts began to thaw. He did not shout, nor did he demand attention. His voice was gentle, but it carried the weight of eternity. He walked through villages where the forgotten lived, the sick, the poor, the sinners cast aside by the proud, and he touched them. He did not avoid the broken. He reached for them, and wherever his hands moved, life began again. A blind man opened his eyes and saw the sun for the first time. A cripple stood and walked, trembling in disbelief. A leper felt clean skin beneath his fingertips. Yet when the crowd marveled at the miracles, he would say softly, "Tell no one. Your faith has made you whole." He did not come to be admired, but to awaken what was lost within us, the image of God that time and sin had buried. His light was not made to blind, but to reveal, not to shame, but to guide. When he spoke of love, he did not speak as a philosopher describing ideas. He spoke as love itself. One evening, as the sun disappeared behind the hills, he stood among those who followed him and said, "You are the light of the world. A city set on a hill cannot be hidden." The people listened and felt something stir within them. No one had ever told them that before, that they carried something divine inside them, that they could shine too. As night settled, the world grew quiet again, but his words lingered like firelight that refuses to go out. He told them, "Let your light shine before men, that they may see your good works and glorify your Father in heaven." It was not a command, it was a revelation. For those who had once been lost, now knew they had a purpose. He walked through storms without fear, teaching his followers that faith was not the absence of storms, but the courage to trust through them. One night, as the waves threatened to swallow their small boat, he stood up and said, "Peace, be still." The wind obeyed. The sea grew calm, and his disciples whispered, "Even the wind and the sea obey him." In that moment, they saw that his light was not only for the calm days, but for the darkest nights. When the religious leaders tried to silence him, they found they could not. His words carried an authority beyond human argument. When they brought before him a woman caught in sin, they demanded judgment, hoping to trap him in his own teachings. But he bent down, writing in the dust, and then said, "Let the one without sin cast the first stone." One by one they left, their hearts exposed by a truth too heavy to deny. To the woman trembling before him, he said gently, "Neither do I condemn you. Go and sin no more." And for the first time in her life, she felt free, not because she was innocent, but because she was loved. His message was simple, yet it overturned empires of pride and power. He said, "The greatest among you will be your servant." In a world obsessed with being first, he bent down to wash the feet of others. He touched what others avoided. He forgave what others condemned. And with each act of love, the darkness that ruled men's hearts began to tremble. Crowds followed him everywhere, but he never chased attention. Often, he would leave them to pray alone in the mountains. He spoke to his Father in whispers that the world could not hear, and from that silence came words that shaped eternity. "Father," he prayed, "not my will, but yours be done." His light was unlike anything the world had known. It was not just seen, it was felt. The proud resisted it. but the broken ran toward it. And every time he spoke, something invisible shifted in the hearts of men. There was a night when a man named Nicodemus came to him, hidden in shadows, afraid of being seen. Nicodemus asked how anyone could see the kingdom of God. Jesus answered, "Unless one is born again, he cannot see the kingdom." Nicodemus didn't understand, but Jesus continued, "The wind blows where it wishes, and you hear its sound, but cannot tell where it comes from or where it goes. So is everyone born of the Spirit." In that quiet conversation under the stars, heaven revealed its greatest mystery, the rebirth of the human heart. And though many did not understand him, he never stopped speaking. He knew that truth once spoken does not die, it takes root. He said, "I am the way, the truth, and the life." Those who believed found freedom. Those who doubted found restlessness, because his words would not leave them alone. The more he spoke, the more the darkness fought back. Leaders plotted in secret, whispering that this light must be extinguished before it consumed everything. But what they did not know was that the light he carried could not be destroyed. It was not borrowed. It was eternal. He said, "I am the resurrection and the life. He who believes in me will live, even though he dies." And when he stood before the tomb of Lazarus, his voice called out through death itself, "Lazarus, come forth." And the man who was dead walked out alive. The people gasped, not because they saw a miracle, but because they realized that death itself had just been challenged. From that moment, his path led toward the cross, but he did not run from it. His mission was not to escape death, it was to transform it. His light would pass through darkness, not around it. And in doing so, he would leave a trail for all who followed after him. And still today, his words echo across generations. "Whoever follows me will never walk in darkness, but will have the light of life." They remind us that faith is not the absence of fear, but the courage to walk toward the light, even when the world around us trembles. When you close your eyes tonight, and the world feels heavy, remember his promise. The light still shines, and the darkness has never overcome it. He walked among the people not as a ruler or a man seeking praise, but as a quiet voice calling hearts back to life. Every word that left his lips carried eternity within it, and each sentence rolled like a wave, gentle enough to comfort the weary, yet powerful enough to reshape mountains of pride. When he spoke, the world seemed to pause. Even the air stood still, as if creation itself remembered the sound of its maker's voice. He said, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth." The people listened in silence. They had never heard words like these before. The world had always honored the strong, the wealthy, and the proud. But this man spoke of mercy as strength and humility as victory. Some whispered to one another, confused, while others quietly wept because, for the first time, they felt seen. When he said, "Love your enemies, bless those who curse you, and pray for those who persecute you," the hearts of his listeners trembled. No one had ever told them that before. They had been raised to fight, to repay evil for evil, to despise those who wronged them. Yet his voice softened their anger, teaching them that his kingdom was not built by force, but by forgiveness and love. His words were seeds falling into dry soil. Some were rejected, others buried deep, but those that took root began to grow and would one day change the world forever. He said, "Man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that comes from the mouth of God." And the people began to realize that hunger of the body was nothing compared to the emptiness of the soul. To the weary, he said, "Come to me, all you who are burdened, and I will give you rest." When those words reached them, they didn't just hear rest, they felt it. Their hearts loosened, their fears melted, and for the first time they believed peace was possible. He did not promise a life without storms, but a peace that would remain even in the storm. He spoke again. "I am the Good Shepherd. The Good Shepherd lays down his life for the sheep." In those few words, the eternal plan of love was revealed, a God willing to die for the very people who turned away from him. The crowds followed him everywhere. Some came for miracles, others for truth, but many came because his words felt like home. And yet, he often left the crowds to climb the quiet hills, where he prayed to the Father in silence. Even the Son of God sought solitude, showing that true peace begins not in noise, but in stillness. He said, "When you pray, go into your room, close the door, and pray to your Father who is unseen." He reminded them, and us, that heaven is not far away. It waits in the silence of a humble heart. Then he said, "You are the salt of the earth. You are the light of the world." He wasn't telling them what they could become. He was revealing who they already were. To every broken soul who thought they were unworthy, he offered identity. To every sinner who thought forgiveness was impossible, he offered grace. To every heart that forgot how to love, he offered himself. "If anyone thirsts," he said, "let him come to me and drink." And the thirsty came, not with cups in their hands, but with hearts cracked open by pain, and he filled them. Even those who doubted him were touched by his words. A Roman soldier once whispered, "Never has a man spoken like this." Because truth, when it is pure, cannot be ignored. He said, "What does it profit a man to gain the whole world and yet lose his soul?" The words pierced like lightning and echoed across time, across kingdoms and generations, reminding all who heard that everything we chase will fade, but what we are becoming lasts forever. Then he said, "You cannot serve both God and money." The people looked down at the coins in their hands and realized how small those treasures felt in the presence of eternity. Still, his message was never condemnation, it was always invitation. He said, "I am the way, the truth, and the life." Not a set of rules, but a relationship of love. When he forgave, he looked into eyes filled with guilt and said, "Your sins are forgiven." There was no hesitation in his tone, no limit to his mercy. He spoke with the authority of heaven, because he was heaven's voice. The people began to believe, and belief became a flame that no darkness could extinguish. Even those who hated him could not silence his truth. Whenever they tried to trap him with questions, he answered with words that disarmed their hate. They asked, "Who are you?" And he answered, "Before Abraham was, I am." The same voice that once spoke light into existence was now speaking face to face with humanity. And even knowing the cross awaited him, he kept teaching, kept healing, kept forgiving. His purpose was not to escape pain, but to redeem it. He was not afraid of the dark. He was light itself. And that same light still awakens souls today. In whispered prayers, in unseen kindness, in every heart that dares to believe that his words are not just memories of the past, but living truth for this very moment. The hill stood silent under a darkened sky. The air felt heavy, as though the world itself was holding its breath. The crowd gathered, restless, torn between awe and disbelief. Soldiers moved with a sense of duty, not mercy, their armor glinting in the faint, eerie light. And there, at the center of it all, stood the wooden cross. Upon it, the Son of Man, bloodied, broken, yet his expression filled with an unshakable peace. The wind carried the cries of those who watched. Some wept openly, some turned away, unable to face the sight. But even in agony, his presence seemed to bring a strange stillness. His eyes, weary yet filled with compassion, looked not upon his own pain, but upon the hearts of those who had placed him there. And then, in a voice that trembled the silence, Jesus said, "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do." The world paused. The heavens seemed to listen. Forgiveness spoken not from a place of comfort, but from the depths of suffering. It was a kind of love no human could fully comprehend. The Roman soldier, his hammer still in hand, froze as though something unseen had gripped his very soul. As the minutes bled into hours, darkness began to fall across the land. The sky, once blue, turned to the color of ash. The ground beneath trembled. It was as if nature itself could not bear the weight of this moment. Women cried at the foot of the cross. Mary, his mother, was among them, her heart pierced by the prophecy she had heard so long ago as a young girl. Yet her eyes did not hold anger, only pain and the quiet understanding of a divine purpose. Jesus spoke again, his voice faint yet filled with an eternal strength. "Woman, behold your son." And to his disciple he said, "Behold your mother." Even in his final moments, his heart was fixed on love, on family, on care, on the simple yet infinite act of giving to others. Hours passed. The light of the sun faded completely, and an unnatural night fell at midday. The crowd grew uneasy, some whispering that perhaps they had condemned an innocent man. Lightning streaked through the clouds, thunder echoed from the heavens, and the temple veil, far away in the city, tore in two from top to bottom. The centurion, a hardened soldier, looked up at the cross and whispered, "Truly, this was the Son of God." But on the cross, Jesus drew his final breath. His head bowed low, his spirit yielding to the Father's will. "It is finished," he said, not a cry of defeat, but a declaration of completion. The promise, the plan, the redemption of humanity, all of it was sealed in those three powerful words. The earth shook violently, rocks split open, tombs cracked, and it said that even the dead stirred in their graves. The world itself seemed to mourn. Yet within that chaos there was a profound peace, a sacred silence that spoke louder than thunder. The sacrifice was complete. The price had been paid in full. As the storm cleared, a soft rain began to fall. It washed the dust and blood from the stones, mingling with tears that no one dared to hide. The disciples stood at a distance, lost somewhere between fear and faith, not yet understanding that this was not the end, but the beginning of everything they had been promised. They took his body down with trembling hands, the weight of the Savior now still pressed not only upon their shoulders, but upon their hearts. Joseph of Arimathea came forward, a man of quiet courage, and offered his own new tomb. In the dim light of evening, they laid him there. The stone rolled across the entrance with a deep, echoing sound that felt like the end of hope itself. Night fell. The city grew silent. And for the first time since his birth, the world felt utterly empty. The followers of Jesus hid in fear, afraid of what might come next. Their faith wavered. Their dreams seemed to be buried right there with him. But above them, unseen, the heavens stirred with a silent light. The same power that had spoken creation into being was not still. It waited, patient and certain, for the dawn. Angels watched over the tomb, invisible to human eyes. The darkness thought it had won, yet even in the silence heaven whispered, "This story is not over." And on that silent night, somewhere within the stillness, the echo of his own words lingered. "I am the resurrection and the life. Whoever believes in me, though he die, yet shall he live." The stone was heavy. The grief was deep. But the promise, the divine promise, was already at work beneath the surface of despair. As dawn prepared to rise beyond the hills, the earth began to breathe again. That cold tomb was becoming the seedbed of eternity. The cross was not a symbol of loss, but of love perfected. Through pain came peace, and through death came life. And so, the story of redemption did not end at Calvary. It began there, written not in ink, but in blood. carved not on tablets of stone, but upon the human heart. The wind softened, the stars began to fade, and the morning light crept gently across the horizon. The third day was coming, and beyond the tomb waited the promise of dawn. The cross was not the end. It was the doorway to the greatest promise of all. In the stillness of that sealed tomb, heaven's light began to stir, waiting for the moment when life itself would rise again. The story continues in the dawn of resurrection. Thank you for watching. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe to continue this journey with us. We'll see you in the next video.